Not all stories are just stories. Some are real nightmares waiting to unfold. Do you dare to listen? Subscribe to Scare Squad and step into the darkness. Turn on notifications because the next tale might just be your own. I've been a trucker for over 15 years, and in that time, I've seen things on the road that would make most people quit. Drunk drivers swerving into my lane, deer exploding on impact, even a guy once trying to flag me down in the middle of the highway at 2 a.m., only to disappear when I passed. But nothing haunts me more than what happened near that graveyard on Route 16. It was late October, a little after 3 a.m., when I was hauling a load through a stretch of road in Pennsylvania. The route was isolated, just a 2-lane highway, surrounded by thick woods. I wasn't too worried. The truck stop coffee was still kicking in, and I had some old country tunes playing low to keep me company. Then I saw it, just off to the right, a graveyard shrouded in fog. I'd passed by it a few times before, but something about it that night felt off. Maybe it was the way the tombstones seemed to shift in the mist or the way the wind suddenly stopped. As I drove past, my headlights swept across something moving near the entrance. At first, I thought it was just another traveler, maybe a homeless guy or some drunk kid. But then I realized he was wearing a trucker's cap, his clothes dusty and tattered like he'd been walking for miles, and he was waving me down. Instinct told me to keep driving, but something about the way he moved, desperate, urgent, made me ease off the gas. I slowed, watching him in my side mirror as he hurried toward me. That's when I noticed something that made my stomach drop. He wasn't casting a shadow. The truck's lights should have thrown his outline against the ground. But there was nothing, just the empty pavement. Before I could react, I heard a loud bang against the passenger side of my truck, like something had hitched a ride. My blood ran cold. I floored it. The truck roared down the road, but I swear I could hear something. No, someone, breathing right inside the cab. I didn't look. I didn't dare. But my side mirror caught something, just a glimpse. The man was inside my truck, sitting right in the passenger seat. I nearly swerved off the road. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I was having a heart attack. And then, just like that, he was gone. I drove until dawn, not stopping once. When I finally pulled into a truck stop, I jumped out, gasping for air. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip my thermos. That's when I noticed it. On the dusty seat beside me, right where the man had been sitting, was a single trucker's cap, and stitched on the inside, faded but still readable, was a name. Tom Grady. My stomach twisted. The name felt familiar. I grabbed my phone, hands still trembling, and did a quick search. What I found made my skin crawl. Tom Grady had been a trucker. He died 10 years ago, right there on Route 16. A freak accident. He'd fallen asleep at the wheel and crashed near the graveyard. They never recovered his body. I left the cap at that truck stop. Haven't driven that route since. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm on an empty highway, I still get that feeling, like someone's sitting beside me. And every now and then, I swear I hear a voice whispering over the hum of the engine. Next time, don't leave me behind. I've been a trucker for nearly 2 decades, hauling freight across every stretch of asphalt this country has to offer. I've seen some weird things on the road. Shadowy figures at rest stops, flickering taillights that disappear into the fog, even the occasional UFO story passed around on CB radios. But nothing compares to what happened to me on I-4, near the dead zone. For those who don't know, there's a stretch of I-4 in Florida, between Daytona and Orlando, infamous for accidents and strange occurrences. Legends say a group of settlers were buried there, and when the highway was built, their graves were disturbed. Some truckers refused to drive through it at night. I used to laugh at those guys. Not anymore. It was around 2:30 a.m., the dead hour. I had just passed the St. Johns River when my radio crackled. "Breaker, breaker, this is Widowmaker. Anyone out there?" I picked up my CB. Loud and clear, "Widowmaker. This is Roadrunner. You on I for right now?" "Affirmative. Watch yourself." "There's been some activity tonight." That was all he said before the static swallowed his voice. The hair on my arms stood up. Activity meant trouble. Accidents. Weird sightings. Maybe both. A few minutes later, I saw it. A figure standing on the shoulder, barely illuminated by my headlights. A woman in a tattered dress, her hair matted, eyes wide and vacant. She was barefoot, swaying slightly as if lost. I slowed down. It was instinct. I reached for my radio, got a possible hitchhiker near. She bolted toward my truck. I swerved, missing her by inches. My tires screamed against the pavement as I fought to regain control. When I looked in my mirrors, she was gone. Just like that. No body, no trace. The road behind me was empty. My heart pounded in my chest. I took a deep breath and kept driving, telling myself it was exhaustion playing tricks on me. I had just convinced myself it was nothing when my dashboard lights flickered. Then my radio cut back in. "Don't stop for her." It was Widowmaker's voice, but it sounded off, distorted, hollow. I grabbed my CB. "Widowmaker, you still there?" No response, just static. I pressed on the gas. I didn't care if I was over the limit. Something was wrong. I just needed to get off this stretch of road. Then I saw it again. Mile marker 13. I had just passed it 5 minutes ago. There was no way I had looped back. No way. The woman was back on the shoulder. Same dress, same vacant eyes. This time her head was tilted, her mouth moving. She was saying something. I locked my doors, gripped the wheel, and stared straight ahead. I wasn't stopping, but then she was suddenly in the middle of the road. I slammed the brakes. Too late. I felt the sickening impact as I hit her, her body folding under my truck. My rig skidded to a stop. My breath came in short, ragged gasps. I looked in the mirror, expecting to see a broken body on the pavement. There was nothing. Nothing. No body. No blood. Just the long, empty road stretching behind me. I reached for my radio with a shaking hand. "Widowmaker, I think I just hit someone." Silence. Then, "You can't hit what ain't there." The static roared back. I left that highway that night and rerouted my future trips to avoid it. Some roads aren't meant to be traveled after dark. Some stories aren't meant to be told. But if you ever find yourself driving for at night, and you see a woman standing on the shoulder, don't stop. I've been a trucker for nearly 10 years. Long hauls, sleepless nights, and empty highways don't faze me anymore. But one night on a stretch of highway in Oklahoma, I found something that did. It was around 2:30 a.m., and I had been driving for hours. My eyelids were heavy, so I pulled off at an old truck stop near mile marker 84. It wasn't on my GPS, but exhaustion overruled logic. The neon, open 24 hours, sign flickered as I parked. The lot oddly empty except for a single rig with its lights off. Inside, the air was stale, thick with grease and cigarette smoke. A bored-looking waitress in a faded uniform stood behind the counter. Her name tag said Marge. She looked at me like she'd been expecting me. "Coffee?" she asked, her voice flat. I nodded and slid into a booth. The place was eerily quiet. No radio, no hum of conversation, just the buzz of a faulty overhead light. That's when I noticed the calendar on the wall. It was dated 1998. I frowned. Maybe they just never changed it. Marge set down my coffee. The cup had lipstick stains. I was about to ask for another when I heard a sound behind me. A man in a trucker's cap sat at the counter, staring into a black cup of coffee. His reflection in the metal napkin dispenser looked wrong. His mouth was moving, but his face was still. Something in my gut screamed at me to leave. I pulled out my phone, but there was no signal, not even Wi-Fi. I glanced toward the door, planning my exit, when I saw something that made my blood run cold. A missing persons poster was taped to the front window. The picture on it was me. My chest tightened. The date on the poster was from last year. My hands shook as I ripped it down, my own eyes staring back at me. "Everything all right? Sugar?" Marge asked, voice too sweet now. I turned to her, but she wasn't behind the counter anymore. She was right beside me, too close. Her lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. I shot up from my seat, knocking the coffee over. The liquid hit the table and sizzled. The man at the counter let out a wheezing laugh. I ran. Out the door, across the lot. My truck was gone. The other rig, the one with its lights off, suddenly roared to life. The headlights flipped on, blinding me. A figure sat in the driver's seat. He looked exactly like me. I don't remember much after that. Just pain. The sound of an engine roaring. I woke up hours later, sprawled on the side of the highway. My truck parked neatly on the shoulder like nothing had happened. My phone had full signal. The truck stop was gone. No building, no neon sign. Just an overgrown lot. I checked my dash cam footage later. All it showed was me pulling off the road. The truck stop, Marge, the man at the counter, none of it was there. But the scariest part? There was one final frame on the footage. A still image of me, sitting in that diner, sipping coffee, smiling.